Welcome to another episode of VMblog's Work From Home series. Today we're excited to have Rich Severson, Senior Director of Global Solutions Engineering at Stratodesk. Thanks for joining us today.
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you. Thanks for letting me join.
Before we jump in, can you give the audience a quick overview about the company?
Sure. At Stratodesk, we're actually the fastest growing multi-architecture endpoint operating system and IoT system management platform in the world right now. Actually, we're doing really well, meaning, what it is we build an operating system that goes on endpoints, whether it be end user computing based operating system endpoints or IoT type endpoints. And that operating system is built specifically for the endpoints to allow different connectivities for VDI and IoT solutions. And because we deliver the multi-architecture capability, multi-architecture meaning x86, 64-bit, 32-bit, including actually ARM, the Pi devices. So having that flexibility and that capability is done really well, and that's what we do.
So how has the pandemic changed the way companies are dealing with their employees? Are you hearing from your customers that they were either caught by surprise, or have they, already started putting in solutions into place for different business continuity reasons?
Well, I think, much like everybody, we were all kind of caught by surprise by this. But I think it's the scale is probably more of what the challenge has been, because certainly working in the VDI end user computing space, there's always been, the remote work from home type capabilities. But certainly most organizations weren't prepared, I would say, to have, instead of 10, 20% of their employees working from home or being remote, to being 80 to 90% of their employees. So I think that's been the big challenge, is dealing with the scale of it, right? Just, dealing with the last mile of the home users, dealing with all the internet connectivity issues for the home users that they weren't prepared for, and those kinds of things. But I think, those that are Stratodesk customers, it's actually been pretty good because our platform is so flexible. It's allowed them to make those adjustments pretty easily.
And Rich, for the companies that are moving forward and adopting this work from home model, before we go into the technology side of things, maybe in general, you can tell us, how has it affected people, their connectivity, and the infrastructure?
Well, I mean, certainly, first and foremost, just in general, how has this affected? I think we're all kind of getting used to, those of us that have worked from home for years have kind of gotten used to, the occasional barking dogs and those kinds of things. But now we're getting, everybody's getting more used to the interruptions, the kids are walking in and those kinds of things. And I've noticed that those kinds of things seem to be a lot more casual. So, and that's probably a good thing. But as far as, the infrastructure changes and those kinds of things, it's been quite dramatic. A lot of people have had, the ability to have home internet and those kinds of things to service, occasional use, those kinds of things. Now we're introducing, children doing distance learning, other family members, streaming videos at the same time, and now trying to include things like collaboration tools like Zoom, like we're doing on top of that. So again, it comes down to that last mile piece, if you will, that's been, I think, probably the hardest impact. So. And
if you could, just talk a little bit about how the Stratodesk solution itself enables the whole work from home paradigm.
Well, so the nice thing about with Stratodesk, we have, like I said, NoTouch OS, which is the endpoint operating system. And then we have what's called NoTouch Center, which is the enterprise management platform that allows you to manage all those endpoints with that operating system running out there. And, having the ability to manage those endpoints regardless of where they are, and we've been able to do that all along, has been a tremendous benefit. As a perfect example, we had one customer, a very large customer that, a couple weeks ago, let's say we're 8-10 weeks into this pandemic issue, and I was on a weekly call with them, and they said, Rich, had it not been for Stratodesk, we would have never been able to do this. Moving our Stratodesk users was easy compared to moving our Windows users, let's say. And the reason for that is they had, let's say, 3,000 users in a single facility. And they suddenly got direction, hey, we need to take all these 3,000 users and move them out of the building and send them home. And so simply what they did is they went into the NoTouch Center, the management platform that we provide, Stratodesk, and they went in and changed the management URL from being an internal DNS name to being an external DNS name, applied that change to the endpoint devices, made a building announcement, told all the users, pick up your devices and go home, we've got it. And they were amazed at how well that went over. I mean, literally, they made those changes, a simple announcement task to all the devices changed their management URL, the end users took the devices home, and once they checked in, then the IT staff had the ability to make changes as they needed along the way. So if they needed to change Wi-Fi settings, if they needed to change bandwidth settings, network settings, adding 802.1x, those kinds of things, they had the ability to do that because it was about just simply having control of the device, and having that control by simply changing that one field, that URL, management URL, made it so easy for them. Like I said, they actually went from those first 3,000 to almost 18,000 employees in a matter of 8 to 10 days.
And Rich, what are some of the big questions that your Stratodesk customers are asking as they're moving to this work from home model? And how are you answering those?
Well, I think the big questions, that are tackling everybody or taking everybody on is the collaboration tools and the multitudes of collaboration tools. Do you support Teams? Do you support Zoom? Do you support WebEx? Do you support GoToMeeting? And the nice thing is again, because of the flexibility of our management platform and our operating system, we actually have extensions or modules for all those tools and those collaboration capabilities, as well as all the different VDI platforms, whether it be Citrix, VMware, et cetera. So we, being able to provide that flexibility and to deliver those connection types or connection changes out to the users by simply using the management platform that they already had in place has made a tremendous difference for our users. And a big thing, I think probably what surprised me the most is the number of businesses that have been asking for things like Avaya, integrated phone services into their VDI environments.
And on a security side of things, can you talk about what kind of security challenges companies might not be thinking about as they're migrating their workers from the office to home?
Well, certainly, most organizations that are in the end user computing VDI space have already got their arms pretty well around security when it comes to data and those kinds of things. I think the biggest challenges of security going to work from home is being able to scale out two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, those kinds of things, as well as certificate management has become a huge one, right? So let's say you've got, significant number of endpoints or users that are working from home that internally would do their certificate updates automatically inside the infrastructure. Now, suddenly, how do they get those secure connections to be able to get their updated certificates, and how do you push those certificates out to the endpoints to make sure that they stay valid so that they can continue their operations? Those have been the biggest challenges, I think.
And Rich, what are some of the key technologies that people need as they're moving to work from home?
Key technologies, obviously bandwidth is the big ones, right? But I think from a enterprise business perspective, the key technologies is having the flexibility of platforms, having the flexibility of quality platforms, whether they be low-cost devices such as the Pi devices, whether they be laptops, whatever, and having the flexibility of the operating systems and the ability to manage those multi-platform, multi-architecture operating systems across the enterprise. And certainly to be able to do it with a single tool is key. And I think that's where we've come in and why we've done so well in this space at this time is because, we have things like, we actually came out early this year with NoTouch Go, which is a bootable USB device that's running NoTouch OS. We've actually delivered thousands of those to customers and to organizations where they simply stick it in an envelope, send it to a home agent, say, hey, you're going to be working from home for the next 8, 10, 12, who knows how many weeks. Go into your BIOS, make these couple changes that, some people find it difficult. Some people don't find it too easy changing the BIOS settings, but to be able to boot from a USB device. And once it boots from that USB device, checks into the management, and then they've got control of the operating system that is now Stratodesk OS. They don't have to deal with the underlying Windows environment. Is it Windows 7? Is it Windows 10? Has it been updated? Does it have antivirus? They don't have to deal with that because now it's running from a live boot environment from this USB device that they now have enterprise control over.
And although not everybody is running desktop virtualization, though they should, do you have any tips for different companies that may not be using VDI right now on how to better prepare in the future in case there's another catastrophic event like the pandemic we're living under right now, to help with that whole work from home shift?
Well, first and foremost, let's hope we never have to deal with something like this again, right? And everything comes out on the right side of this, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. You know, I think the biggest challenge is certainly flexibility. Being able to adapt at scale quickly is, you know, obviously the key changes. You know, nobody ever expected to shift an entire workforce of, you know, 10, 15, 20,000 people from every, you know, 20% of that is, you know, remote to suddenly 90, 95% of that is work from home. I think those are the biggest challenges. So, you know, as you pointed out, VDI is not right for everybody. I think we'll find more and more people are going to go to more browser-enabled applications and those kinds of things, just simply so that IT and enterprises will have control over what's going on. And it's just realizing that, and I think this is going to be part of the longer term too, is just realizing how successful companies can be having work from home employees, you know. And I'm not a mathematician by any means, but you know, if you think about it, if I'm in an enterprise organization and I'm paying, you know, 10, 15, 20, whatever $1,000 a month for floor space in, you know, Manhattan, Santa Clara, wherever, you know, and even if I'm only getting 70% functionality out of my employees now, if I can cut those costs and still maintain that level, I don't think we're going to see that, you know, as much of people going to work to the office as it used to be. I think there's going to be a big shift to this. I think people are going to find out that, you know, we can trust our employees. They are productive. Yeah, there's, you know, a little bit more distractions here and there, you puppy barking, doorbells ringing, Amazon showing up, those kinds of things. But I think organizations are starting to realize that employees can be productive from home, business can get done, we can manage it, we can manage the security and the infrastructure and have control over, you know, our day-to-day business the way that we need to and be able to continue on. So I think there's going to be a big change when it comes to office versus work from home.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, you've talked a little bit about the savings that are involved with not having to have floor space for all these physical employees to be in the office. Do you think it's going to be difficult for companies to be able to lure their workers back to the company? Or you think a lot of them are going to still continue to work from home after things clear up?
You know, I think a lot of it is going to be about corporate culture, right? Certainly, again, I think there's going to be a number of businesses that are going to realize that their employees can continue to be successful working from home. And then what's going to be really interesting is when those employees realize that, hey, if I can work from home 15 miles from the office, why can't I do it 1,500 miles from the office? So why do I have to live in this geography? So I think that's going to be part of it. But I think that there are certainly, you know, the employee interactions are always key, you know, having the ability to interact directly with your coworkers. It's nice to be able to do, you know, use the different collaboration tools, but it's not the same as, hey, let's go have lunch together, those kinds of things. So I think that there's going to be a number of people that are going to say, look, I can't wait to go back to the office where I have direct interaction with my peers. But those of us that have been doing it for years, it's like, it just keep on going. And, you know, now people realize that those of us that have been doing it, it actually takes a little more work to be in a work by yourself, work at home person rather than, you know, hey, you just get to go hang out and not really work all day.
Right.
Well, Rich, I know we can't keep you all day, but I wanted to thank you for joining VMblog on this work from home series. And before we let you go, I want to ask, where's the best place if people want to go and learn more about the company and the technology? And do you guys offer any resources online that might specifically target this whole work from home conversation we're having?
Yeah, much like anybody else. Certainly, you know, you can go to Stratodesk.com. We've, you know, adopted our marketing blogs and data sheets and those kinds of things have been a little bit more focused and directed towards work from home. We do different blog meetings and those kinds of things where we are providing more direct work from home information. But certainly, again, the advantage of what we do, our message hasn't changed that much. We're managing endpoints. Now it's just the location of where those endpoints are. That's really the only difference for us. certainly the scale hasn't changed. The technology hasn't changed. It's just more of how quickly we're responding to our customers. You know, suddenly we've got, you know, instead of having, you know, customer engagements weekly, now we're getting, you know, hundreds of customers going, hey, we need help now, you know, so that's been the big challenge. But again, Stratodesk.com, all of our information is there. There's blogs, there's videos about NoTouch Center and NoTouch OS. So.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more from our cloud technology partners, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to get notified next time we post a video, please hit the subscribe and the bell notification. Very important.